I must have been living under a space rock because No Man's Sky just dropped another awesome looking update called Worlds, a full overhaul to what has already been one of the best parts of the game in the first place, the worlds, hence the name of the update. It's pretty on the nose actually, but I think they couldn't have found a better name for it. The update brings a huge amount of improvements visually to clouds, lighting, water, and adds things like new wildlife, new gameplay, and new planet types to find, and a ton more that I'm actually super excited to dive into this weekend so I can share with you guys just how much has changed. Honestly, I'm blown away with how much Sean and the rest of the Hello Games team have been able to do with No Man's Sky over the past 8 years. It's honestly incredible that they've continued to support it for so long. There are so few development studios I can think of out there with such a dedicated and inspired team. But speaking of games that have continued to get support over the years, there's also another game with ships in it, and that's the sponsor of today's video, World of Warships, a highly detailed free-to-play naval warfare themed game where you can command massive historical naval vessels by yourself or with some friends against thousands of players across the world. I used to play the game a ton back in the day, and I'm really excited to get back into it, which is perfect timing because they're also now doing a rather unexpected collaboration with Star Trek? Yeah, the TNG characters no less. Heck yeah. The story they're pitching is that Q has sent the crew back in time with the intention of seeing how well they fare without the aid of modern technology, which actually seems pretty Q-like. Anyway, if you log in now, you'll get a chance to unlock a unique Star Trek port, and if you complete a special chain of combat missions, you can get one of 4 different commander options: Picard, Spock, Garan, or Sela. Honestly, I just want Picard, but if I get Garan, I'll be happy too. And apparently you can also tour the bridge of the Starship Enterprise D at the new port. The best Enterprise. I'll fight you on that one. And even use special customizations like patches, flags, camos, and unique skins, all from Star Trek. I really hope that there's a Picard facepalm in there, but I doubt it. When they said that there's always something new going on with World of Warships, I definitely wasn't expecting this, but I'm totally here for it. So when you're ready to hit the engage button, just go to the link in the description down below and download the game and use code FINALFRONTIER in the registration process to get Jean-Luc Picard, Captain of the Enterprise, as your own commander, 2 times Star Trek containers containing even more Star Trek content, a tier 4 ship unlocked after 15 battles, 200 doubloons, 1 million credits, and 7 days of premium account access. Hope to see you guys then out there on the waves, where I will hopefully sink you before you sink me. While the Worlds Update 5.0 has added new worlds to explore and overhauled much of the interface and visual experience of the game, it's been so long since I last played that there's more that surprised me than just how stunning the game looks now. Stuff I wish I would have had back when the game launched, like ship customization that you can now do by collecting crashed ships and salvaging them. There are also new encounters with rebel factions and pirate haulers, and interiors of haulers can now be customized way more than they ever could before. Stations also have been completely overhauled. There are new quests, new planets, black holes, new races, expeditions to get awesome new gear to equip your character. It's just, there's so much stuff to experience. I'm pleasantly overwhelmed. I'm not even being hyperbolic here when I say that it's insane just how much has been added since it was first released in 2016. I mean, we've gone so far past a comeback for No Man's Sky that it's not even a speck in the rearview mirror anymore. But we're here to talk about this new 5.0 overhaul update because it's what drew me back to the game, so let's dive into exactly what's changed. Which took me a while to put together because honestly I have had a big problem trying to just get started making this, as I've had so much fun playing the game, collecting footage for it. Starting on the visual side of things then, Worlds introduces a complete overhaul to the atmosphere and cloud generation system. The clouds are now visually more stunning than they ever were before, being more substantial and having a direct relationship with the weather effects occurring on the ground below. That means rain and storms now happen with cloud cover, not just randomly like they did before. On the subject of storms, by the way, they've also done a lot to improve them visually. They have new particle effects, smoke effects, and updated the floor to react to the weather so that they sway and blow in the breeze and winds as the storms roll in. Now they're not so much annoying as they are also really cool experiences when you get caught up in one. I just wish they didn't last forever sometimes. But it's not just the clouds and storms that they've changed, they've also overhauled the water to give it a much more realistic look and shader. Skimming the surface or walking along the shore of the ocean never looked so good, especially when you're flying with a friend, so you can see the new water effects while you low fly. The effects also change depending on the weather, becoming more choppy in storms and more placid and serene in calm weather. In any weather though, diving below also now looks way more fantastic than before. They also improved the swimming effects, and they've added a ton of content to underwater experiences that I haven't experienced yet. This is not new to this update, but they have submarines now and underwater bases and even items that you can craft for your character to help you better explore there. And I've never been so enticed to try this part of the game before, thanks just how good these oceans look. Oceansides also now have foam as the water splashes ashore, making standing on a beach even more epic as you plan out your next outpost for gathering resources. Both water and atmosphere also now have a much wider range of colors and hues to make them feel more interesting as you explore, and also helping to make the whole exploration thing a bit more diverse. And then to help things look a little bit better than they ever did before, they also overhauled the lighting and shadows in 5.0, giving them a lot more presence and realism. It's a bit more of a difficult thing to talk about though without a direct comparison. Luckily they have one on the website that I'll show you here quick, just to see what it looks like before and after. But the actual experience of playing the game with this update has made the general feeling of it more crisp and real, I guess, than it ever felt before. And lighting is actually really important to making a game's graphics look good. They play a huge role in how you perceive objects and how they pop out from the background, and if it's not good, you might perceive the graphics of the game as being bad, when in fact the lighting system isn't just that good at all. That said, it's still not ray tracing at all yet, but I'm not sure if that's ever going to be a thing. And all of this can be seen in much greater detail and at a much greater distance thanks to increased draw distances and better level of detail. This makes the representation of planets much more realistic from afar and accurate to what you'll actually experience. I recall when I first played the game years ago that I'd have problems where I'd approach a planet and would look one way, and once I landed, it would look completely different, being a bit frustrating and taking me out of the immersion of the experience. That said, it's still not completely perfect. Sometimes it can vary a little bit when you approach, but more or less now, it is pretty accurate to what you should expect as you approach a planet, which definitely helps a lot. And to top all of this off on the visual side of things, they also added DLSS3 support with frame generation to help you get a few extra frames when you're playing. I'm sure this is going to be a boon to people with some systems that are struggling to run the new Ultra settings with all the new effects. And in case you're curious, the footage you've seen so far in this video has been captured using an RTX 4090 on my 7950X 3D AMD system. And all of the settings you've seen have been running on Ultra. But it's not just visual improvements with the Worlds update, as it also introduces new frozen, lush, desert, scorched, radioactive, toxic, and gravitational worlds to discover on your journey. They also have a variety of new fauna like plant-animal hybrids and walking building things, though I haven't encountered those yet, and some of them even have a new enemy called Vile Brood. They're noted as an attribute on the planet when you're approaching them, so you'll know that they're there, and as far as I can tell, they're not super uncommon. I've run across them several times now. To get them to come out and play, you just need to find the grubs that they lay out as bait for you, and if you interact with those grubs, they'll come out and attack you. The big Vile Brood mother will come out and throw its brood at you, and you'll have to beat it with the new boss UI, which is also new in this update, by the way, to give you an idea of how much health they have left and when they're going to start spawning more brood to attack you. It can be pretty intense though, so if you're going to go do this, make sure that you've got a pretty well-equipped character. Planets also now have supersized flora to better fit with the environment, making for a much more dense experience that can feel more exotic than it ever did before. The variety is also much improved than it was before, but this might be something that's been left over from earlier updates. Again, I haven't played in a while, so a lot of this is very new to me. But if you're like me, you might be more curious about those gravitational worlds with those cool floating islands. Those seem to be the most rare of all, and I didn't find a single one after jumping to around 20 different systems. Strangely, these planets aren't really something that's marked clearly telling you that they have floating islands present. So as far as I've been able to tell so far, the only way to find out if they're on a planet is to fly down and check visually. As far as I can tell though, it also seems like they're only present on more pleasant worlds, so like lush and boreal planets and such, so you may want to look for those specifically, but I might be wrong on this. I I was only finally able to find one thanks to my friend Jimmy, who's had already 30 hours in this update so far, who discovered it first. That's where I took the time to build my own sky base on one of the islands, but just as a forewarning, not all of those floating islands will have collision for some reason. I'm not sure if this is a bug or what, but the ones with the waterfalls all seem to be solid, so if you want to build a base on top of one of these, find one with waterfalls and you should be able to land on it and start building. I didn't actually discover this until later, so I actually built my base on one of the ones without collision by using stairs and then cutting the stairs off afterward to create a floating platform. I want to go back actually to build one on one of those ones with rivers because I want to build my own version of Rivendell. Speaking of building, by the way, they also added a new skylight to the blocks, just one block. It's cool. It adds a bit more, openness to the inside of a building, so check it out if you're interested. I'm going to show you guys the symbols here on the screen if you guys are curious about checking out this planet alongside my base, so if you know how to enter those, feel free to check it out. And finally, there's a new expedition that's going to be launched very soon that will have a bunch of new earnable items to equip to use for decoration or to actually use in your exploration. I'm not entirely sure when it starts though, and my guess is that it should start pretty soon because usually I think they run them fairly soon after releasing an update, but I might be wrong on that. You can do expeditions from the Nexus, which is something that you spawn in as a player. It's a big sphere thing that you go in, and it acts as a kind of social hub where you can connect with friends or other players randomly to get together to do missions, or to get missions and earn a special type of credit that can only be used in the Nexus to buy these specialized items. One specific item that's going to be part of this expedition is called the Heavy Duty Minotaur, which I personally really want to get because it's got a flamethrower. I've not seen it in game yet because the expedition's not out, but it looks really cool from the previews. Honestly though, there's a ton of other stuff I've not yet earned, so I'm probably still going to be doing some of these Nexus missions even before the expedition starts. But this isn't the whole list of every single feature in this patch, so if you want a full list item by item, you can find a link in the description below. The sum of the parts though is that the experience feels much more fresh and new than it ever did before, bringing the game's visual style up to a more modern standard. Well, that's super important. Hello Games also continued to impress by adding not just technical updates, but also real content. All these new planets are fantastic. And to know that that's not the only thing to find in this patch is incredible. It's been so long since I've had a game that's just been overwhelming with the amount of content that it has to experience. So if you'll excuse me, I'm actually going to go back and play some more. Are you in? Let me know down in the comment section below, how are you enjoying this new update? And don't forget though, if you are about to try out World of Warships, you can use my code FINALFRONTIER by clicking on the link in the description below and using Final Frontier when you register to get all that cool stuff from the Star Trek cooperation between World of Warships and Star Trek. Hope to see you guys in the next one.